All right. Hello, Star Wars players. Can you hear me? Yes, you should. This is Bastian Winkelhaus coming to you with day two, the third heat, game one of this World Championship. And we're gonna get this game over here, Coffee Pass against Sersen. So Drew Lichtenstein versus Ryan Sersen. And it's gonna be Court versus Legend. So both of these, I think Coffee Pass, Drew, he made the OCS top 16 this year. Ryan made it the year before. So two solid players. I think both ranked in the about 20 point, fantasy point range for these events. So definitely no slouches. And yeah, let's see what we got up there. Okay, we already have an interesting card. Court here playing with Quietly Observing. So probably he doesn't need it to play any characters that he's not normally allowed to play, but seemingly wants to have access to Zizer's Bounty because this card makes two aliens Black Sun agents, and then you can play Zizer's Bounty to prevent anybody from getting in there. Basically, it's a guaranteed barrier you can pull with a shield. So you play the shield where you can download an immediate effect, and whatever alien you want to deploy first turn or second turn, you can just make them an agent before you deploy them, and then you get access to the barrier. Hey Matt, yeah, thank you. Congrats on qualifying for the next weekend. Went 4-2, I think, right? Uh, Yeah, I think we had both heats yesterday. Finished with 1-6-0, 1-5-1, and then a lot of 4-2s. So if it continues like this today, then 4-2, you're still. I mean, you of course you're behind some of the other players, but yeah, you're still part of a large field. Let's see. Of course, if there's no 6-0, mass would suggest that we end up with more than just 1-5-1, so probably 3-5-1s. But with our game and the way our pairings work in the odd rounds, sometimes other things can happen. But we will see what this day will bring us. Okay, so we get Jabba the Hutt. He's not. Oh yeah, he did use Quietly Observing. I missed that. To use Jabba the Hutt and Aura Singh was Blaster Rifle. And there's the Fanfare Shield, which can pull the immediate effect, and that will allow Ryan to protect his Jabba from any kind of something like a ray with lightsaber or something. I think in Legend, I would not expect a control tunnel vision. Maybe in Hitco. So probably this card is in there to protect against Hitco. Very popular deck yesterday. We're gonna see how it ends up today. How many Hitco decks there's gonna be, but it was by far the most played light set deck yesterday, and it's really good at taking the audience chamber, and then you lose scum and everything. So as a dark set player, you really want to hold the audience chamber. This is the way that he made it. I'm not sure this will work against Hitco, but we're not going to see in this game. I was playing CCT yesterday, and I played a bunch of non-shall pass, and I think it makes a real difference if you send Luke back to hand, or if you just Sizer's Bounty, aka barrier him. I mean, then Luke is still there, and you just delay the problem for one turn. Obviously, Court is able to rack up a lot of power. CCT brings a Boba Fett who's power 4, and you only have a smaller hand to work with. So Court, you got the Jabba, you don't spend the 6 force on your first turn just to get that Boba there, so you can generally muster a bit more stuff for a counterattack on turn 2. but still, yeah, he probably tested it, and we'll see maybe in another game how it works out. But here against Legend, not so much of a problem. Probably light side generally uses the first turn to set up Luke. You generally don't want to attack with Legend in the first turn anyway. And just eat a ping of 1, and then wait for Darkside to set up some more, or see if there's anything you want to attack, or then set up maybe at the other side to prevent the ping damage. Although Cord's damage potential on the ground is pretty limited, and with something like Rose retrieving a forest, you can absolutely ignore Tatooine for the most part. All right, so here we go with a Luke, and having an altar to terminate scum. Interesting. Though there is a version of Jabba the Hutt that makes scum immune to altar. This one is not it. And it's gonna be interesting to see if Ryan plays 2 copies of scum or not. If he does, then it's not that big a deal that this one is cancelled. If it would be the only copy, then Ryan would really be in trouble here. And Scum itself is only immune to alter if you control at least 3 Jabba's Palace sites, which obviously this deck is not going to do because it doesn't even play any other Jabba's Palace sites apart from these 2 that are on the table, very most likely. So here comes a projection. I mean, he downloaded that from the reserve deck. I don't think he would need it right now because I'm pretty sure that Darkseid would not pay 3 Force to drain for 1 at this very crucial stage in turn 2. I think Darkseid would rather set up in space first, but yeah, so maybe I think in light sides, if I were in Drew's shoes, I would maybe draw a few more cards instead of spending the 3 Force for Walkling now to have more options for turn 2. But yeah, this is what he ended up with. Okay, so and then he lost 1 Forest to the Court Ping, and that was a Padme from deck. Yeah, we had a lot of Hitco, a lot of Hunt Down V yesterday in Heat 1, and the one that Matt, COG, and I played in. There were less than in Heat 2. I think in Heat 2 there was like 11 of the 25 light side decks were Hitco, and like 10 of the 25 dark side decks were Hunt Down V. I was lucky enough to play 6 different matches, 1 against Hitco and 1 against Hunt Down V. But not multiples of these. I think I read somewhere that Joe Olsen yesterday played 6 games that were all Hunt Down V versus Hitco because these were the decks that he was playing, and these were all the decks he was paired up against. So he had a probably rather boring day, while I had a more interesting day with more diverse opponent decks. That was all, including a very fun hyperdrive deck that was against Solid Snack, who also ended up 4-2. And I was playing with my CCT, and it was surprisingly very close. I mean, I prevailed in the end, but he had very, very strong space, and yeah, basically, I was afraid that he was going to come to the audience chamber with one of his Jedi's, and he was concentrating on holding what is junkyard and setting up. And once he was flipped, he had like 3 or 4 ships up at Tatooine in the end, but yeah. Luckily, I prevailed in that game. Okay, so he's fortifying the audience chamber with 1 more guy. drawing some more cards. Ryan, he did not go for a ship yet. I would expect him to go to space next turn then. I mean, you don't really have to if you're not draining there, because basically as court you wanna. Wait a moment. Did he try to go for the scum? Oh yeah, he checked his reserve deck with Null Hodder and found that there's no card. Well, both of them verified, and at least there was no scum and villainy in there. Maybe he activated a second one if he played one. We will see. He did play 4 shields. Oh no, one of the shields was the light side, so dark side has one more shield pull. So, and then the question is, or if you play second scum, you probably want to play oppressive enforcement, because light side has access to solo, which could then play the altar again from the last pile, and generally court would definitely not play more than 2 scums. So if you play a second scum, you got to play the oppressive enforcement later to protect that. And if he doesn't have a second scum, then Alter can get rid of the blaster controls if Lightside thinks he needs the berry. I don't think. You can play Blast the Door Kit in Legend because your side is an interior side where you can download something like Chewy, who has ability 2, not a leader, so he gets around Blast the Door Kit, but I don't think Drew plays any of that. All right, so here comes Legend going to the Cocoon Pit with Ray, Layer, and BB-8. And he's preventing the court ping. That way he's got a weapon. He can flip his objective to prevent any dark side weapons from hitting him. And with BB-8, he has a damage source that he doesn't have to pay anything to Battle Plan for. Yeah, Jared, he had a nice day. You're probably talking about Solid Snack, right? I think he ended up 4-2 qualifying. I think he said his hyperdrive ended up with 2 losses, so his dark side deck must have gotten 3 wins. Hi, Benjamin. Nice to seeing another German here in the chat. I'm gonna answer you in English to not exclude any of the other viewers. Yeah, this is the third heat. This is the in-between heat, so to say. So since our main player bases are in US East Coast, US West Coast, and Europe, 3 of the 4 heats each start at 10 a.m. local time for one of these 3 regions. And this here is the pot that is in between for everybody. So if you're in Germany and would play in this pot, you would have to expect to play until after midnight. If you're on the West Coast, you would have to get up at like 4 a.m. in the morning to play in this pot. So it's a little bit of an odd pot for everything, for everybody. But yeah, Drew, for example, Coffee Pass here, he's up early all the time, and we were testing a bit. He's actually, his wife is from China, so he lived in China for a while until a couple months ago, and that was great to have somebody who's in our German early hours when the Americans are all asleep. I had a good opponent to test with because it was his afternoon or evening. And now that he is living in the US again on the East Coast, he's up very early. He's often up before 6 a.m., so it's about my noon. Okay. And so we tested a bunch. I think he said it yesterday on the stream when he was talking about one of my matches. So I knew he was gonna play Legend today. I don't think we tested the court matchup. He of course tested with other people too. Yeah, he actually he had a bunch of he had a long jet lag phase. I mean, naturally, he was living there for like half a year or something, or even longer. I don't know. So it took him like 2 or 3 weeks until he got used to the new time zone. And then also it's like a 12-hour time difference between China and the US East Coast, so that must be totally brutal. I mean, I'm used to like doing the 6 hours from Germany to US East Coast a couple of times, but then you're in the US for like a week or two, and your body doesn't really get into the new time zone hardcore. But yeah, he had some problems, and it was. He said he went to bed at something like midnight, and he could sleep, but his body was basically thinking, "Oh, this must be like a nap, an afternoon, like a nap after eating lunch." And then an hour later, his body would say, "All right, nap is over. Let's wake up." And must have been pretty brutal. Anyway, Darkseid ignoring the characters at the pit and instead setting up space here, which I think is decent. So your Darkseid, you're getting 1 point of damage. Thor's Lightside is pinging for 1 and maybe paying to drain, probably not yet. So we're moving at pretty slow speed, both sides setting up a damage of 1. Darkseid did play the new Scum. Darkseid did not play Oppressive Enforcement yet. He's probably waiting for Solo to turn up. And he will just have to hope that he doesn't forget, because the moment that Solo hits the table, he will have to play the shield as the next action. All right, and then Ryan is playing a Podracer Collision to try to take an interrupt out of Lightside's deck, and Drew is playing the Sense. I think he's probably only playing the one, but he got me with that Sense a couple of times in our playtesting games too. I mean, the altar is the virtual altar, which means it's not affected by do or do not, or there is no try. But the Sense is a regular Sense, so it's yeah, it just goes to use pile, sends the Podracer Collision to the lost pile, and since Darkseid will probably have to play the Oppressive Enforcement anyway, he could just have done it a little bit earlier. Also, Oppressive Enforcement makes Zeiser's Bounty deploy for 0 instead of for 1. So, and at the speed they are trading damage, I cannot think that in any way Lightside will not get access to Solo at some point. It's very, very unlikely that Darkseid will make Drain for 1 and like Lightside loses Solo off the top or something. Oh well. Maybe now he will when he thinks that the Sense will come up again. Okay, so game is going at a pretty slow speed, which generally favors Legend, because they can set up the damage source with BB-8. They can set up the rows for the retrieval. You now set up 3PO to really set up destinies and get access to key cards. So Legend generally definitely favored the slow game, and wants to set up solidly and not give Darkseid any great opportunities to battle into and retrieve easily with Scum. Lightside will have to go to a second location at some point, though, for retrieval, because Kamihiri Coward is out, which means that something like Rose, for example, will not work until they get to a second site or a second location. Though space is probably a minefield for Lightside that they should avoid. The thing is, if you ignore, yeah, and basically he's punting space here. He's announcing that he's punting space by playing Menace Fates. I mean, Menace Fates, for one, he's probably not gonna control the system, and for second, Darkseid will probably not have any bonuses that are worth canceling. So this is definitely a card he doesn't need. And you can see that this is a slow game because If you want to go for card advantage, you generally would, if you lose a card from hand, you just use 3PO first and put the card in used pile and then lose it from used pile. Um, so basically, you're getting card advantage instead of losing a card from hand. You're losing a card from used pile, but it's a known card. You know it's not a blind card you're losing. But here he says, all right, I got all the cards that I need, or I can get to all the cards that I need. I rather put back a good destiny for later than getting the card advantage. Stay, yeah, yeah. The thing is, you really don't want to put out the really don't want to put out the Jakku system because this little bugger here adds a light side icon to an opponent's system, which means that if you put out the Jakku system and Darkside takes it over with Alice in Hintra and other ships, then they can drain there for 3. And if they drain at their own Nalhuda system, it's a drain of 1, which you can just pretty much ignore, right? So if you just punt space and say, and especially now that Darkseid set up so solidly, right? If Darkseid would set up lightly in space, then maybe you could be tempted to go in there and try to get in a beatdown of some kind. But Darkseid has set up very, very solidly in space here, and you were probably just better off ignoring it. I mean, these characters are not going anywhere. There's nowhere to land or to. Okay, forget whatever I was saying. Or seemingly you and your team were also wrong, Jared. Uh, and that was against Drew's court. So Drew should know what court is capable of in space, but he decides to go to space anyway. So let's see what he's doing there and why. I mean, so far we got. Oh, there's a solo in space. That should get at the oppressive enforcement now or never, else your scum is gonna get buried again. What the hell is going on here? So neither is Darkseid pulling the shield, nor is Lightside immediately playing the altar again from last pile. I'm confused. What's going on here? Why is he not doing it? I mean, theoretically speaking, he could have a relatively unprotected in his reserve deck and say he doesn't want to risk it. I mean, he would probably know, depending on what he put back with 3PO win. But now would be the time. You don't want to get dark. Well, the deploy is probably not the problem, but the retrieval, if Darkseid initiates here, is a problem. So I am a bit confused. Anyway, so you got Solo here and Poe and Soka. So each of them have a pilot that reduces 1 from any draws the other person is getting. So no, this is the wrong one. So here we got Woof, who said opponent's battle and weaponized draws are -1, and Ahsoka says opponent's battle destiny draws are -1. No, what the hell is going on here? So he decides to go for a shield that will make light side have to pay 1 force in the entire game. With Guri existing, it seems like court was space in the. Yeah, yeah, I agree. There's 2 cards, or there's a couple cards that really make the scum decks, and I mean, I didn't play a lot of court lately, but I played a ton of CCT, and from the package of characters and ships, it's basically the same. Um, as court, you can get them more easily from your reserve deck, which isn't that important now because he's already in the slow game where his reserve deck is pretty thin. That's also why you had to set up proactively, because that was the chance to get all the reserve deck pulls. But basically, there's a couple of cards that make life very miserable for light side. And so two of them we already have out there, which is Woof and Ponda Baba. Woof is a smuggler. Ponda Baba says if with a smuggler, add a destiny to attrition, and it's +2 if it's your own smuggler. So he's already getting a second destiny to attrition only. And then there's stuff like Guri in Stinger, if would be best, to limit your opponent to one destiny and also get an additional destiny. Also, if you're playing her to Stinger, she's free. If you have to pay 6 force for her, that's pretty steep cost. And there's also more destinies you can draw. You can put Lady Proxima into that ship, for example, to the Alice Intra. Then she's with 2 other aliens, and that's a battle destiny. Yeah, but he's concentrating on the ground for the moment and not going for any kind of destiny limiting. That's a little bit dangerous for Darkseid to do, um, because Drew put out the tentative and the 3 characters for all his force, and that would only get him 2 battle destinies. But if he could add something like Poe and the I'm getting good at this interrupt, or at least Chewie, for example, he can get up to 3 or 4 battle destinies in space, and that could really get bad for Darkseid. But instead, Ryan is concentrating on the ground. He put out a bunch of characters, including Django Fett, who is good against EVP Rage. He's adding a battle destiny there. And now there's Boba Fett, Bounty Hunter. The problem on the ground is that General Leia is there, and she can play rebel leadership since she's a general. So going for the at the moment he would draw 4 battle destinies, but 1 rebel leadership later, after Leia plays it, it's only 1. So it's risky to have this team go on the attack. But let's see if he's attacking here. He only has 4 fours, so if he initiates and pays to retrieve with Scum, then he could not pay upkeep for Boba Fett, so there would not be a reason for Rey to swing at him. You really want to swing with Rey at one of the weapon guys, probably since you have 2 very easy to hit droid there, probably Dengar. Um, Let's see. Also, we're seeing that Aura Singh is not at that site. Why no creatures? Yeah, I will get to that in a moment. Um, I was just going to say there's no Aura Singh here, and Aura Singh is a second character that he made an Black Sun agent was quietly observing. So with the setup we have here, you gotta expect that Drew is holding Finn for a free react either to space, he's free reacting to post location, or to the ground, freely reacting to Ray's location. And if you don't have the, if you had Aura there, he could play the Zeiser's bounty on Finn to prevent him from participating, and that maybe would have allowed him to initiate a battle. As is, he deployed these 5 characters, but then decided to leave it like that and just pay the upkeep for Boba and um, not initiate any battles. So we're in a grind. The game has come to a halt. No drains. No. The only damage Lightside is doing here is BB-8, 1 damage. But as I said, in general, this favors Lightside. This favors Legend because they have a lot of stuff that they can still bring to the table. Qui-Gon, Yoda, Chewie, etc. There's a lot of stuff which is not as cheap as Darkseid's characters are together with Scum. So let's see what Drew is cooking up here. Hey Quirin, good morning or Mahlzeit by now. Thanks. Yeah, it was good. 6-0 really puts me in a good position for next week. But you made it to 4-2, so at least you're playing. And so far, there's only 4 players who got a better record than 4-2. So if that repeats here today, like it did yesterday, so 4-0, 4-2, still pretty good in the running. Um, he just loses imbalance from the use pile. Yes. Yeah, that could have been a real problem if Darkseid had initiated battle last turn. That was like you react with Finn. Finn pulls Sorry About the Mess. Um, then you play Rebel Leadership to limit your opponent's battle destinies. You swing, and then in the next turn you play Sorry About the Mess in your control phase, and you get rid of 2 key characters. That could have been really bad for Ryan, so that's why he didn't initiate. But it's not like it's getting easier here. Lightside now playing 2 Jedis. Also playing a proactive meditation, which is not doing anything at the moment, or is it? No, of course it's doing anything. It's not getting a second battle destiny, but it's still affecting opponents' aliens here. They're all power -1, and lots of them are forfeit -2. So the meditation really helping here. And I would imagine that he had that one from the start because he very early used his walk lane to get the projection of a Skywalker to reduce the audience shimmer drain. And I think getting the meditation would also be a good play for walk lane. Anyway, he's initiating battle here into the 4 battle destinies that Darkseid is right now. Maybe allowed to draw. Here comes a reacting Greedo, which Lightside canceling the react. So Greedo stays in hand. And Darkseid spent his last force to play the Greedo, so he cannot grab. So Lightside is free to play Rebel Leadership. Okay, here's a ceasefire. After Lightside decided to flip. That's a nice play. Does Drew have the hear me baby? No, he doesn't. Yeah, so that's well played. So I mean, he didn't have to play the Greedo react. Just you pass on the just action as Darkseid because as the opponent that is attacked, you get the first just action. But then if Lightside decides to flip and get rid of your weapons, you play the ceasefire to prevent Lightside from using their weapons, and suddenly your weapon characters will be ready to rumble in the next battle, because that would probably have been the characters that Lightside would try to swing at with their lightsabers. And Lightside is playing the Rebel Leadership to limit any destinies. Yeah, and that's a nice play too. Here we have hidden weapons with the 5, which makes her hit. Since basically ceasefire and hidden weapons are both cancelled by the same card, which is Hear Me Baby Hold Together Virtual. So and Lightset doesn't have it, but even if Lightset had it, it could only cancel one of these 2 cards. So Lightset now thinking about causing a redraw on that 5, but I don't think you should do that. Because you run the risk of drawing a 2 or 3, which the dark side draws the 2 or 3, which means that Ray is immediately captured. That would shift the power balance from something like 20-14 in the favor of light side to 15-18 against you if Ray was not on table. And I mean, obviously it's not good to lose a meditation and to lose a Ray, but at least you know for sure you're not going to lose anything else because she still has her forfeit value. She's just hit. She's not hit and forfeit 0. So you will lose her and nothing else, and it can't do anything against it. Yeah, I'd rather grab the leadership. I agree. I don't think that reacting with Greedo was a good play here. You really should have saved. Ryan should have saved the one force and instead grabbed the rebel leadership. Especially especially if you know you have the ceasefire and that your 4 battle destinies will still be alive. And even like if we have this sequence of ceasefire, hidden weapons, and you grab the leadership, I mean, Lightside is now down to 4 force. They can still use their objective, so go up to 5 force. But if they want to play a second leadership, they have to pay 2 force. So if you keep the Greedo and grab the leadership, and then Lightside maybe draws a card or two, and then you just play the Greedo straight up, and then before initiating the counterattack, then then Lightside will have to face a very tough choice. Like, do I want to swing my saber? Do I want to play second leadership? And of course, rid of you're getting rid of this one leadership so that it's not recurring. Surprise, super expensive, especially with all the Higgs expected. Yeah, ceasefire, of course, you have to lose 2 force to play it. Normally it's a used interrupt, but still, it is pretty expensive. You wanna, I mean, if it allows you a counterattack where you're gonna retrieve 2 force, then yeah. But I think some of these card choices here, especially, what are you saying? You're saying super expensive, especially with all the hitco expected. So Matt, you're thinking that ceasefire is bad against hitco? Isn't uh, something like Cat Bane or something like Cat Bane and another bounty hunter, and you initiate against Luke Skywalker, and you got the ceasefire going through. That should be good, right? So you're getting rid of at least one of them, one of the 5 or whatever, one of the 5 or whatever Lukes that they are playing. Yep, here we go. That should be what we expected. I was expecting this way earlier, and I have no clue why Ryan played that shield instead of oppressive enforcement. Oppressive enforcement would send the scum to used. You can get it back with Jabba, but for whatever reason he decided not to do it and instead deploy a shield that will make Darkseid spend exactly Lightside make spend exactly 1 force in the whole game. So I am pretty sure that Drew is holding a fin in his hand. He also now knows where this interrupt is. Um, so it was right now it's 9 cards. 9 cards down. So you activate 9 and then use 3PO, and then you getting kind of good at this. So this could be an opportunity to initiate a great battle against Darkseid in space later on. On the other side, it means that right now Darkseid, probably Lightside is only playing one of this interrupt. Um, at least my list only included one, which means that Darkseid could be pretty sure that Lightside does not have the interrupt now, and that will allow him to maybe attack in space. Hmm. Okay, but Lightside seemingly does not have another rebel leadership at the moment. He goes to the audience chamber with his characters, and because he's low on force, he leaves a droid behind, which means that PB8 will not be pinging next turn. And which also means that Darkseid can drain at the pit for 2 because of this guy, the Vulcan Tesseri, what's his name? Why is it? There he is, Vulcan Tesseri, present at a pit at 1 to 4 strain. Yep, and there's Jodocast in space. Jodocast allows him to cancel the second Vestal Destiny. So basically, Lightside, if he's not having the interrupt, can only draw a single Battle Destiny now. Problem is that Darkseid is not really drawing multiple destinies too. Yeah, he's getting the second destiny to attrition +2. Yep, he's adding a destiny to attrition, and it will be +2 because this was his own smuggler. Yeah, he's Jodocast, of course, is good synergy with hidden weapons. It's good. Nope. And yeah, he's playing the Help Me Obi-Wan Kenobi to cancel Wolf's game tags, which basically means that his battle destiny will be +1. If you play it before the battle to cancel Ponda Baba's game tags, which of course is much more powerful, then maybe Darkseid just doesn't initiate. But since Lightside seemingly does not have the fin to react, I don't think it would have been that bad for Darkseid not to attack. But Drew decided to do it in the battle and not wait. No, waited for Darkseid to initiate the battle. And here comes the first destiny, which is a 5, which is pretty important because it's gonna be not only the first but the last destiny, because this one will get cancelled by Jodocast. And 5 means that Darkseid will have to lose somebody. And here's Aura, which is a 4, thanks to Quietly Observing, adding +2 to her destiny. So that would mean 3 from the battle destiny, 3 here, +2 would be 9 attrition, which means that Lightside will have to lose 2 characters. You could redraw her because it doesn't really. I don't know why he's not redrawing, causing a redraw on that destiny. Because 9 attrition means he's losing 2 characters. Worst case, Darkseid draws a 5, which means it's 10 attrition, which doesn't change anything. You still have to lose 2 characters, but you really gotta hope for a natural 2 or 1. There's not many 1s in this deck probably, but the 2, one of the characters that only has a destiny of 2, would mean that 1 character would be sufficient. So a lot of small, let's call it room for improvement on both sides. Don't want to call it errors or mistakes. And Darkseid is moving people back into the audience chamber. Interesting, leaving 2 characters only at the pit, which is yeah, but Dengar can shoot the 2 droids. So if Lightside puts down somebody to attack, he will lose both of these droids. So we were talking about tracking getting kind of good at this, but he's not doing it. He's just going for whatever card. I don't know if he tracked that one, probably not. I mean, you're not holding a fin at the moment, but if you're not really doing anything this turn, if you're not spending any force, I guess if you're not really spending any force, then you're gonna draw the getting kind of good at this anyway, because we know it's still, that's not doing much. This is getting close. We were talking about it was 9 down. There were 9 cards above it. And And I think he had one force saved. He drew two battle destinies. He used 3 PO, so there were 6 cards above it. So he activated. I think he just missed it. Must have been 6 cards. He had 7 cards in force by when he started drawing, and it was 1 card remaining from the last turn and 6 cards that were above. He pulled a lightsaber with Obi last turn. Oh. On dark side turns? Was that on dark side turn? Okay. Well, never mind then. When did he do that? Coffee pass activated. That's the current turn. Oh yeah. So on Ryan's turn. Never mind then. Okay. Thanks. Oh, he did it on the start of Darkseid's turn. So he drew the. I'm getting kind of good at this at his last turn on the light side turn. And he knew where it was, but then he recirculated and on Darkseid's turn shuffled his deck. So never mind then. But his window to play the interrupt is getting smaller and smaller because he played Heron Syndulla in space now, but he's now having 2 characters in space that are both 4 feet 6, and his opponent is still having Ponda Baba adding a Destiny to Attrition +2. So unless the 2 Destiny is going to draw off a Battle Destiny and Destiny to Attrition total only a 4, if he's drawing anything higher than a 4 with these 2 Destinies, then this will wipe out the characters. Okay, so he's putting Lady Proxima there into the space cruiser, which means that he will have to. Then that's the wrong ship. So Lady Proxima has to be present with 2 other aliens, I think, doesn't she? No? Is it enough for her to be with 2? While with 2. Okay, never mind then. It doesn't have to be on the same ship. So he's drawing 2 battle destinies now, and he's adding a destiny to attrition. So he might even wipe out Lightside Space totally. Depending. And I think as Legend, as Lightside, you're absolutely happy with getting wiped out there. I mean, I think it wasn't really profitable to go to space, but yeah, Darkseid spent a few resources in space. Lightside spent more resources in space than Darkseid did. Okay, so he pulled the Qui-Gon's lightsaber and seemingly put it back. Or he's playing 2. And here's the 3 plus 2. So it's a total attrition of 12, which means that Drew could lose both characters and keep the attentive, but you don't really want to do that. And yeah, there he goes. He just loses attentive first. Because there wasn't any battle damage, so the order doesn't really matter, but he's evacuating space now. It's a losing proposition to stay in space. Darkseid just did not lose anything. Yeah. So I think that wasn't really helpful for Lightside to go to space. He spent more resources there, he spent more force there, and he just forced Darkseid to spend a few force and like 1 or 2 cards. Nothing substantial. I think he should have concentrated on the ground. But then okay, yeah. Cards like Tentive, cards like Poe, they're not really doing anything on the ground. But I think it would have been better to just ignore space and not go there at all. Benjamin, if you're still there, you were talking about creatures early on. Are you still here? Is there a way for me to see who's here? Yeah, creatures just aren't really that good anymore. I mean, Bubo, he's attacking like with power 4, and I think it's power 4. So you would need a character that has a power of less than 4 and doesn't draw a destiny. Um, yeah, and there's just not that many of those. And I think he's not attacking droids, so BB-8. I think you can get rid of Rose like that, but since Legend, especially in this matchup, prefers to stack aside, Boo would have like one chance, and he randomly chooses his target. So if there's something like Leia, Rey, and Rose, you got a 1 in 3 chance to have your Boo eat the Rose. But if not, then on Lightsight's turn, they will just kill the Boo with a lightsaber or with yeah. And the thing with Sarlacc is actually yeah, Rancor is not really playable because of because you have to play him at the site, I think. I don't even really know. I think Rancor can only play to the Rancor pit, which you need to pull, and you need to pull the Rancor, etc., etc. And especially for court, you don't normally want to flip. Basically, all the good text you're having is on the 0 side. This text you need early on to pull your docking base, to pull your ships, and later on the important text is that your bounty hunters are all forfeit +2. You lose that text if you flip the objective, so you don't really want to do that. I mean, it can work because but I think the more powerful one would be the Sarlacc. That one is actually capable of killing somebody because I think it's only power 4, but also power 4 plus a destiny. So if you're up against something like Leia, who's also power 4 in a destiny, then there is a certain chance to kill her. And I think the Rancor is unable, the Sarlacc is unable to be hit by a weapon because he has like defense value 12. And then to kill him, you have to go above 4 plus 12 plus a destiny, so he needs a very sizable amount of power. But and then I know that the Great Dragon has been in that Mandalorian season recently, but I have no clue what it actually does gameplay wise. I cannot tell you why nobody is playing that one. Maybe I have to look out for it. Read the text at least. So here's Qui-Gon, Serene Jedi, and Meditation. And that's what I was talking about with the slow game. So here's Greedo again. Again, with his last force, this time it doesn't really matter because Darkseid already decided to grab and interrupt, so it doesn't matter. Yep, there's Greedo. And Darkseid has Lightseid has one lightsaber. We don't know if he has. We'll have to see if it's another rebel leadership, since it was this kind of rage and he got a pretty big used pile. I would expect him to have a rebel leadership. Yep, there it is. So now the problematic card for Lightside is Dengar, because he can shoot at 2 characters. But, I mean, he can shoot at the droids. These will be easy to hit. On BB-8, oh no. So what's going on? So Lightside's first action was to play the rebel leadership. And that allowed Darkseid to play the hidden weapons, but it got sensed again. And then Darkseid can now shoot, and then Yoda can shoot with his or can swing his lightsaber. What am I missing here? Why is dark side not shooting? Yeah, regarding the creatures, I think that creatures don't care for your side. I think Bubo has a special rule that he's not attacking your own characters, but all other creatures, they can also just as well randomly attack a dark side character, so you don't want to really want to do that. Alright, so here's Denga shooting. He shoots at BB-8, easy target, get rid of the ping damage. And Lightside decided to go for Vulcan Tesseri, interesting. I don't think that really makes any oh, no, he has to. Right, exactly. Sorry. Vulcan Tesseri has a text that he, unless he is hit, you cannot target any other characters with lightsabers. Pauline's Fist. That's interesting. Interesting ship to put in a court deck. Deploys, yeah. You got the quietly observing, making Jabba a Black Sun agent, so you could deploy cheap to Tatooine system against something like Diplo, but I don't know if that's worth it. Oh well. Okay, so Lightside drew a 5 for Battle Destiny, which became a 6 because of Total Destiny because of Rey. Then Darkside draws the 5, which gets redrawn into 3, and Lightside plays the Force Projection, so that Lightside does only lose a BB-8 and no one else. While Darkside is losing Vulcan Tesseri, who is hit in forfeit 0 and has 18 more power and 6 more attrition. And some of these characters are forfeit -2, which is, let's see, where's the meditation? Forfeit -2 if a leader, a maintenance card, or a permanent weapon card. So, for example, Bounty Hunter Boba Fett, he covered 6 instead of the regular 8, and Cat Bane covered his full 7. But for example, Dengar, we would also only cover 4 his printed value. Yeah, Jared, I absolutely agree. I mean, as a saying in America, I think is like "fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me." So, starting hand altar in Legends deck, I can totally understand that he's losing the scum to that one, and you don't proactively put out a anti altar shield. But basically, he knew the altar was the last pile. When Solo hit the table, he knew that Lightset could at any time play the altar again, and he knew that his second scum was his last scum. So why he deployed that shield at that point and not oppressive enforcement, I have no clue. Alright, so Darkseid putting up some more characters, but this is gonna be a losing battle, and since Lightset did not put out the Jakku system, and it's only Sight that it's putting out where Darkseid can go is also drain -1. There's not really much damage potential for Darkseid here. So he's just gonna get into a big battle on Tatooine, which he will lose, very most probably. Because Lightside can roam free with the leadership, and now we should be able to track where it is. I mean, I didn't track it, but what was it? He spent 14 forts or something. Then he played the leadership. He swung. I think there were 14 cards in use pile when he played the leadership, if I remember correctly, which means that he would have to activate 5 and then use 3 PO to get the leadership back again and reduce all these. Because now Darkseid would again draw 3 battle destinies. Django is adding 1 with these Jedis. Forlom is adding 1 with Jabba. Yeah, so you really want to get rid of these. Of course, you still have the weapons here. You got Mara with her lightsaber and Dengar. So these are really... That's not nice. But you probably have to battle here, swing at Dengar, play the leadership, and apart from 3PO, 3PO Finn with ability 3, he's easier to hit, but you got all these big defense value people like Qui-Gon, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and all these weapons are not going to make a dent in these. And Obi-Wan being a general, probably the only thing. Yeah, I think I also don't agree with Ryan using Dengar to shoot at Finn last turn instead of 3PO, because you know that Drew should be able to loop the Rebel leadership with 3PO very easily, and at least you should make it harder for Lightside to get to the Rebel leadership and to get to the crucial cards. But he's still gonna have another chance to shoot 3PO in the next battle. Because as is, Lightside will have to do something. The board state at the moment is Darkside drains for 1. I mean, Lightside still has all the time in the world to prepare for their strike. And also with Darkside being down to 13 and needing all these destinies and having only a 4-card hand. Oh, never mind. Sorry about the mess. This is getting easy. Yeah, yeah. The problem here is just like Balkan Tesseri works in battle. Greedo says that sorry about the mess has to target him first before you can target anyone else. So there goes this one. But you can still like wackling the sorry back and wait for another turn and have Darkseid initiate and set up somewhere else, because Darkseid now is in a situation, if Darkseid wants to initiate the battle, you still want to have all the destinies that you would need. Like you want to have 4 weapon destinies, you want to have the 3 battle destinies you can draw, plus 1 destiny, spare destiny for the redraw from the legend objective. So if you're having 13 cards in your life force and you're needing 8 destinies, there's not much room to maneuver for anything else. And here's the Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber, so now Lightside will be able to get rid of both weapon characters in the next battle and hopefully have the Rebel leadership. Yeah, so I guess this game is pretty much over. And yeah, Lightside will just have to finish it. If we're looking at the clock here, Ryan still has more than 32 minutes on the clock. Drew has 18 and a half. That's 18 and a half is still plenty, but he's already behind by like 15 minutes. So he can't really wait too long. So he's initiating the battle with an Anakin Skywalker for free. 5 more power, add 1 to the battle destiny. And now he's swinging. Interesting. He's swinging at Forlom. Don't think I agree with that one. Forlom has the lowest forfeit of all the characters out there, which is only 3. Because he's also a permanent weapon character, so he's affected by... Oh, no, meditation only affects the aliens. Never mind then. So it was... Forlom has 5 forfeits, so that was useful. So Mara trying to go for the Qui-Gon, but with a 2 at the first weapon destiny, that's not looking good. Yep, that's a 5, so that's 7, but that's not higher than the defense value. So he went for the big play here and trying to get rid of the meditation and the lightsaber, but it didn't pay off. And that means that it will probably be over soon. Dengar missing with the 1 weapon, and then shooting again. Lightside taking out a small destiny. Shooting at Finn again. This time he's, nope, still not hitting. Okay, so Darkseid had 3 weapons. None of them hit anything. And now Lightside swings his second lightsaber at Mara Jade. Hits her because he just took the 1 out of the deck and knew exactly what 3 cards were in there, so he knew who to swing at. Mara still covers battle damage because this lightsaber only makes her unable to satisfy attrition. But it doesn't really matter. So Lightside seemingly does not have the rebel leadership. Darkseid will be able to draw 3 destinies. So Lightside will have to lose some kind of character, but he's way ahead on power. He can afford to lose a character or 2. Especially 1 out of the generals. Probably you want to keep at least 2 of the resistance characters so that you can drain +1 from your flipped objective. So Darkseid draws a 4 and a 2 and 3. So that's a total of 9. And General Kenobi has 9 forfeits. There's still a general there with Leia, so I would think that General Kenobi is a character that's going to die here for Lightside, and you're going to attack into 3 weapons and 3 battle destinies, and you get out there losing 1 single character. That's or you're losing 2 characters because you want to. That's like a very, very good outcome. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Repressive shield means he still has scum. I mean, Lightside is playing it correctly that he's not offering Darkseid very cheap battles or something. He didn't spread in any way. He always concentrated at one side, but the intermezzo in space was certainly would have been even less helpful if scum was still on table. And getting rid of the leadership early, yeah, and there's a concession. Nice. This is it. So Drew not playing his best, but his opponent making more mistakes, and also Drew just having a very good matchup here. And yeah, I think the mistakes that Ryan made here with what to grab and which shield to play were the costlier mistakes. So let's see